For the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Jesus continues with the use of the parables, and kind of the main focus of this one is the weeds and the wheat. And it's kind of one of those stories that just makes you question, like, really, are you really going to separate? Are you really going to let the weeds and the wheat grow together? And it's a unique situation. I mean, with the way that wheat grows and these weeds that might come up in between them. Many people have said, if you pull up the weeds, you're going to uproot the wheat as well. It comes out in the parable too. Other plants, here I am in the community garden, there's weeds you can pull right next to the tomato plants and you wouldn't have any issue with that. So different plants are different. This is a particular story that fits the meaning of what Jesus wants to communicate, and there's a whole bunch of historical details, explanations. Some will say that the weeds that would grow up actually resembled wheat until they were fully mature, so you didn't even know what was what until the end. But it's interesting. There's a lot of different agricultural situations where it just makes sense to let the weeds grow up. There's a few weeds in this garden. It's not a big deal. They're not interfering with the growth of the plants that will be harvested. I know a farmer who has a huge field of produce, and I remember going out there in early October one time, and the weeds were bigger than the plants, bigger than the peppers, bigger than whatever else was out there, the eggplants. The weeds were even bigger, but it just didn't make sense. They were going to grow up together, and at the end, what was harvested was what was good, and what wasn't harvested was what was bad. They just left it there. So, Jesus is almost like giving us a heads up, like, hey, I know it's a mixed bag out there. I know you're looking around the field that you're in, call yourself a wheat stalk, I know you're looking around and saying, that's not wheat, and it's hard sometimes, when the world is mixed up, and we're trying to grow into, good wheat, and around us is sometimes, the weeds. But Jesus says, I know, and in the end, it'll all be sorted out. There's no need to have anxiety over those things, but I will take care of it. And I think what's helpful is when we recognize that within ourselves, it's a mixed bag. In the wheat field of our hearts, there's plenty of wheat, but there's also a lot of weeds, and there's places in our own lives where if he came right in and started ripping up the weeds, you disturb the good that's in us too. So in the end, he'll sort it all out, and we trust in him and allow him to be at work in us. And extend that back to St. Paul's reading from St. Paul as well. He's talking about how the Spirit acts in us, because we don't know how to pray as we ought. We don't know what's truly good for us. We don't know what we need sometimes, and we don't know how to relate to God all the time. So the Spirit is at work in the midst of that mixed bag, bringing about a harvest of plenty for the Lord. And from the beginning, think about what I said about these parables, a continual seeking of conversion in Jesus. We continually seek to give him, the whole of our hearts. And we'll understand some of it, but even more importantly, we'll be living the reality of it when we give him the whole of our lives.